I just looked inside a drawer that used to be full of random socks. Expired batteries, mystery papers, and all kinds of things I kept for no real reason. And now that it's completely empty, I feel a kind of relief I didn't expect. Have you ever wondered how much stuff you're still keeping even though you haven't used it in years? In today's video, I'm sharing 200 real items that I have decluttered from my home, including things from my closet, the kitchen, the kids' rooms, and even tiny objects I forgot we had. This is not a sample list or an ideal suggestion list. These are actual things that are no longer in my house, and letting them go felt better than I expected. If you've ever looked around and thought, why am I still holding on to all this? Then this video is for you. Let's get started. I started with clothes and personal accessories. This has always been the most difficult area for me. Not because it was messy or things were everywhere, but because I had way too many items that I kept just in case I might wear them. But the truth is, I never did. A lot of it just sat there for years. This time I wanted to do it seriously. Not just tidy up the closet, but actually go through every item and ask myself if I was still using it in my current life. By the time I finished, I had removed over 50 items. I didn't count every single thing, but the pile was big enough to see a real difference in my closet. Some items were tiny, like socks, but there were also bulky coats that had taken up half a shelf. I started with the obvious ones. There was a white shirt that had yellow stains under the arms. I had tried different detergents, washed it so many times, but the stains never went away. I kept it because I thought it was still wearable, but I never chose to wear it. I finally let it go. Then there was a pair of jeans that used to fit me perfectly before I had kids. I hadn't worn them since. Every time I saw them, I felt like I should try to fit into them again, but that didn't feel right anymore. I gave myself permission to let them go. I also found a dress I wore to a party 10 years ago. I only wore it once. It still looked nice, but it didn't feel like me anymore. There was a soft wool cardigan that I used to love, but it had become fuzzy, heavy, and uncomfortable. I got rid of it too. I also let go of old sweatpants I thought I would wear around the house, but never actually did. Every time I reached for something comfy, I skipped over them. Then I moved on to smaller items. I got rid of socks with holes in the heel underwear that had lost its shape, a beanie I never wore, and a scarf that was always too short to wrap properly. I let go of high heels that hurt my feet every time I wore them, sandals with slippery soles, a handbag with peeling straps, sunglasses that were too scratched to see through clearly, a glove that had lost its match, a swimsuit that no longer made me feel confident, pajamas made of a fabric that was hot and uncomfortable, a tank top that was too tight, a matching outfit I wore once for a photo, then never again. A traditional dress for New Year's that I hadn't worn in years. Thin leggings I couldn't wear outside. Belts I never used. A suitcase with a broken wheel. A torn raincoat. A watch that stopped working a long time ago. A heavy coat that was more trouble than it was worth. Worn-out sneakers. Free tote bags from events. A college snapback I kept for no reason. Yoga clothes I hadn't worn in forever. There were so many other little things I had forgotten about. Worn bath towels, slippery house slippers, broken metal hair clips, earrings missing one piece, a necklace gift that didn't match my style, bras that no longer supported well, a sun hat that lost its shape, eyeglass straps I never opened, old glasses with the wrong prescription, holiday socks I never wore, a sweater that shrank in the wash, a maxi dress I always planned for them but never did, a silk shirt that wrinkled too easily, leather shoes with cracks, a clutch that couldn't even hold my phone, matching sleepwear from a past relationship, a trendy set I wore once just for fun, slip-on shoes that hurt my feet, a travel robe I had since my 20s that no longer felt like me. Why did I let all of this go? The reasons were simple. I didn't wear them. They didn't fit. They didn't feel comfortable, or they just didn't match who I am anymore. That was enough. Once I had everything out, I started sorting right away. Items that were still clean and in good condition went into a donation bag. I folded them neatly and set them aside. There's a donation center near my house, so I dropped them off when I had time. Items that were damaged, misshapen, or had fabric that was too worn out, I gathered into a separate bag for textile recycling. Our local supermarket has a recycling bin for fabrics, and I made a trip to drop it all off. There were also a few smaller items like old glasses or accessories that I thought friends or family might need. I put those in a separate bag and asked around. And finally, there were a handful of things I wasn't quite ready to let go of. I put those into a box I call "Think About It Later." I didn't put the box back in the closet. I set it aside in a different area. I told myself that if I didn't touch it or miss anything from it after a few months, I would let it go without hesitation. Most of the time, once it's out of sight, I realize I don't need it at all. After finishing the process, I felt clearer and more at ease. Not just because the closet was neater, but because I no longer had to sort through items I didn't like. Every time I opened the closet, I saw clothes that I actually wore, things I felt good in. I stopped wasting time deciding between pieces I didn't want to wear anyway. The best part was knowing that my wardrobe now reflects who I am today. Not who I used to be or who I thought I had to become. Just me right now. It made everyday choices easier. I wasn't dragging around past versions of myself through old clothes anymore. And that small shift made a big difference. And going through all of this made me think more deeply about the different approaches we hear about when it comes to decluttering. I've tried doing it the minimalist way, and I've also followed more structured, joy-based methods. In the next video, I'll talk about what those experiences were really like, and which parts actually worked in real life, especially in a busy home like mine. But for now, let's keep going with the video for today. The next area I focused on was the kids' stuff. If you have children at home, you probably know how quickly things build up. It's not just the toys. It's the clothes they outgrow, the things they stop using, and all the little items you forget you even had until you start digging through a drawer or shelf. I didn't plan to declutter the kids' area all in one go. It started when I was trying to put something away and realized I had to move 4 or 5 broken toys just to make space. That was the moment I told myself it's time to do a proper sort through. One of the first things I got rid of was a puzzle set that was missing several pieces. I had held on to it for a while, hoping we might find the missing ones, but they never turned up. The kids stopped playing with it because they knew it wasn't complete, and I finally admitted it was time to let it go. There was also a toy car with a broken wheel. Every time my son tried to play with it, it tipped over. It frustrated him more than it brought joy, so I removed it from the toy bin. Clothes were another big category. I went through all the drawers and found plenty of shirts and pants that were too small. Some were only slightly snug, but I knew they wouldn't fit next season. I found a winter pajama set that my youngest had worn all last year, but now it looked more like a crop top and shorts. That one definitely had to go. Some toys had been really loved, and it showed. A wooden animal puzzle that had started to grow mold on one side. A stuffed animal pillow that had lost its shape and softness. Coloring books that were completely filled in. Storybooks with torn spines or missing covers. There was a small bowl we used when the kids were learning to eat solids. It had a crack along the side, and I kept thinking I might fix it or use it for snacks, but it sat untouched for months. I also found a sippy cup that had turned yellow from wear. The kids had long since moved on to regular cups, but somehow it stayed in the cupboard. Then there was the high chair. It had been tucked in the corner of the dining area for so long that I almost stopped seeing it. We hadn't used it in over a year. I finally asked myself why we were still keeping it when it was taking up so much space. It felt really good to let that one go. I also sorted through their outerwear. I found a child-size raincoat that was clearly too short in the sleeves. A scarf that was now more of a hand towel than something that kept anyone warm. Tiny socks with no matching pair. A pair of little shoes with the front part peeling away. A helmet that had been outgrown for at least 2 years. There was a baby bouncer seat we used when my youngest was little. I kept it because it held so many memories, but no one had touched it in ages. I finally realized that memories are in photos and stories, not in bulky gear we don't use anymore. I found a nightlight shaped like a bear that no longer turned on. I replaced the batteries and it still didn't work. It had been sitting there more as decoration than anything useful. We said goodbye to it. Some toys were just too noisy or never used much. a musical toy that played loud songs no one liked, a pretend kitchen set that was missing all the spoons and most of the food, a board game with half the pieces gone, a soft blanket that used to be part of their nap routine but was now too small to be of any real use. I also found things like old backpacks from preschool, a tiny rolling suitcase that no longer zipped properly, a set of early learning books with torn covers and wrinkled pages, a milk cup with a crack along the lid, and a collection of small toys from fast food kids' meals that no one ever touched but kept piling up in drawers. I sorted things into a few simple groups. Items that were still in good shape went into a donation bag. If the books could still be read or the toys still worked, I cleaned them up and passed them along. Some of the clothes went to a neighbor with younger kids. It felt good to know those things might be helpful to someone else. Anything that was broken, missing pieces, stained, or no longer safe, I threw away or recycled where possible. I didn't want to hold on to things just because they used to be useful. If no one in the house could use them now, they were better off gone. After I finished, I noticed how much more usable their space felt. The toy bin closed properly. The shelves weren't overflowing. Getting dressed was quicker. And I wasn't constantly telling them to clean up toys they didn't even like. Decluttering the kids' stuff took more emotion than effort, but the end result was worth it. It reminded me that letting go doesn't mean forgetting. It just means we're making space for what we actually use and enjoy now. The next area I went through was all the household stuff. Things in the kitchen and storage bins tucked away in drawers or sitting on shelves that I hadn't paid attention to in years. These were items I used to need or thought I might need again someday, but most of them were just sitting there collecting dust. I started with the kitchen. I found a thermal bottle that had rust spots inside. I had been avoiding using it but kept it anyway for no good reason. There was a non-stick pan with the coating peeling off. I stopped cooking with it a long time ago, but somehow it was still in the cabinet. I had plates with tiny cracks and a few old bowls that were chipped on the edges. I let them go. There were also some collection items like souvenir mugs or random glasses with logos that we never used. I found a pot with a bent handle that never sat evenly on the stove, kitchen towels that were torn or stained, a wine opener that no longer worked, knives that had gone dull no matter how many times I tried to sharpen them, cheap plastic bottles I never trusted enough to use, food containers with missing lids, old spice jars with expiration dates from 2 years ago. I found a heavy glass vase that looked nice, but I had not used in years. A candle that had burned almost all the way down, but I was still holding on to for no reason. An essential oil spray bottle I had forgotten about. A cracked silicone ice tray. An old power strip that didn't work properly. A juicer that hadn't been used since I stopped making smoothies. A wall shelf that had become loose and unstable. Measuring cups that were scratched. An apron covered in oil stains. In the living room area, I went through soft items like pillows and blankets. I found a couch pillow that had lost its shape and support. A spare blanket that had become rough and fuzzy over time. A bedside lamp that flickered. A wall clock that no longer worked. Picture frames with chipped corners. DVD discs I couldn't play anymore because we no longer had a player. In a random drawer, I found extra charging cables that didn't match anything we own. A set of fancy dishes meant for parties that we never used. I also had some old drinking glasses with printed logos from events. A water filter pitcher we had stopped using. An iron that no longer heated evenly. A mini fan that barely moved air. A broom with bent bristles. A tablecloth that clashed with everything else in the room. Moldy curtains I forgot to take down. A shoe rack that had snapped. A pot without a proper lid. A mop I had replaced but never threw out. A welcome mat that was torn at the edges. There were also smaller random items. Old coffee spoons from a long discontinued set. Plastic coasters I didn't like. A lantern from last year's mid-autumn festival. A fake plant that had faded and looked dusty no matter how I cleaned it. A decorative candle I never lit. A bookshelf that leaned to one side. Extra curtain ties we never used. A cracked acrylic shelf organizer, duplicate spice containers I didn't need, Tet decorations from 5 years ago that I never put up again, a ceramic tea tray that was chipped, a wire rack that had started to rust, a mooncake box from last year that I meant to reuse but never did, a bread knife that had gone dull, a picnic cooler with a broken lid, a worn-out travel neck pillow, a vegetable peeler that no longer worked, expired medication, an old coffee grinder I had replaced months ago, a plastic flower vase I didn't like, and a broken window squeegee that I had somehow kept in the bathroom for way too long. Some of these items were useful once. Some were just forgotten, but they all had one thing in common. I was not using them anymore. So I sorted them just like I did with the clothes and kids' items. Things that were still clean and functional went to donation. Things that were broken, expired, or unsafe were thrown away or recycled when possible. Once I cleared everything out, the difference was huge. Cabinets that used to feel packed now had space to breathe. I could see everything I needed without digging through random tools or empty containers. It also made daily tasks easier. Cooking, cleaning, even just finding something simple like a spoon felt more straightforward. Letting go of household clutter felt less emotional than letting go of clothes or kids' things. But it brought just as much relief. I wasn't holding on to someday items anymore. I was only keeping what I actually use and need. Once I cleared out the main spaces, like the closet, the kids' room, and the kitchen, I started noticing how much small clutter had been hiding in plain sight. These weren't big or obvious items. They were tucked into drawers, shelves, and boxes that hadn't been opened in a long time. But the more I looked, the more I realized just how many little things I had been keeping without a real reason. I started with the desk drawer. There were old notebooks with only a few pages, written pens that had dried out, and sticky notes that barely stuck anymore. I found a stack of birthday cards from years ago and a calendar from last year that I never threw out. There were printed materials from a workshop I attended 5 years ago and a cooking guide I never opened even once. In a file folder, I found yellowed envelopes, old notepads I had never used, and decorative ribbon I saved from gift wrapping but never reached for. There were little souvenir items from past events and conferences, things like pins, wristbands, paper name tags, and random freebie keychains. At the time, they felt like something to keep, but now they were just taking up space. I also came across a bunch of postcards, some I didn't even recognize or remember who sent them. There was a travel-sized suitcase that had come as a gift with purchase, but we never used it because it was too small to be practical. I had rolls of tape that had lost all stickiness, expired batteries, and old phone chargers from models I no longer had. There were broken clips, USB drives that didn't work, scratched pocket mirrors, half-filled notebooks, and outdated wall calendars. I also let go of old wedding invitations, stretched-out hair ties, bracelets I got from events, and small towels that were given to me as free gifts, but never used. Then I moved on to a bag of gift bags I had been saving. Some were really pretty, but I kept telling myself I'd reuse them and never did. I also found paper clips that were bent out of shape, dried-out markers, an old pair of reading glasses with the wrong prescription birthday decorations missing pieces, and a savings book from a closed account. In another box, I found old red envelopes from Lunar New Year, a tiny toolkit with missing pieces, pencil cases from school days, a calculator I no longer needed, and a perfume bottle with only a few drops left that I hadn't touched in years. There were also several empty gift boxes I saved because they were cute, but I never used them again. Other small clutter included broken earphones, extra keychains, old phone cases, cracked plastic folders, outdated product catalogs, an empty supplement container, notebooks filled with unrelated or outdated content, old birthday gift boxes, last year's spending log, and several types of resealable bags. I never opened. None of these items were bad or wrong to keep at the time. Most of them just came into the house slowly, one by one, and stayed because I didn't want to deal with them. But looking at them all together, I realized how much mental energy it takes to store and manage things I no longer use or even notice. I kept the process simple. If something was broken, dried out, expired, or clearly useless, I threw it away or recycled it if I could. If it still looked decent, but I hadn't used it in over a year and didn't plan to, I let it go. Some paper items went straight to the recycling bin. A few things like unused notebooks or working pens I passed along to a local school donation box. This part of decluttering didn't take a lot of time, but it made a big difference in how I feel about my space. Drawers close properly, the desk feels clearer, and I no longer have to dig through old cords, dried-out pens, or tiny empty boxes just to find something useful. It also reminded me that clutter isn't always loud or messy. Sometimes it's just quiet piles of forgotten things that we stopped questioning. Once I let them go, it felt like I finally caught up with myself, like the stuff around me finally matched the life I'm living now. That's everything I decluttered recently, from clothes and kids' items to kitchen tools and all the little things I didn't even realize I was still keeping. Some of it felt easy to let go of, and some took a little more thought. But in the end, it all added up to a home that feels calmer, lighter, and easier to live in. And if you've been thinking about simplifying your space too, I hope this gave you some ideas, or maybe just a little encouragement to get started. You don't have to do it all at once. One drawer, one shelf, one decision at a time really does make a difference. In the next video, I'll be sharing my honest thoughts after trying 2 of the most popular organizing methods. I tested both minimalism and a more structured, joy-based system, and I'll tell you what actually worked in real life with a real home and a real schedule. If you found this video helpful, feel free to like it, share it with a friend, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.